Arctic Systems headquarters in Austin, Texas. A modern, glass-paneled office bathed in afternoon heat. Inside the executive conference room, the air is thick with tension. Main character Eleanor Hayes, 56 years old, lead systems architect, loyal to Arctic since its early days in a shared co-working space, known for her rigorous protocols and methodical approach. "We need a new generation of thinkers," the voice echoed across the table, cold and clipped. Eleanor sat upright, hands clasped on the table. Her eyes met the man who had spoken. Blake Hartman, 34, the newly appointed Chief Technology Officer, imported from a flashy Silicon Valley AI startup. "Manual reviews, layered approvals, legacy code," Blake continued, pacing slowly. "That might have worked in 2009, but this is 2024. What we need now is automation, speed, modernity." A thick silence followed. "This company has decided to terminate your role, Eleanor," he announced. "We appreciate your past efforts." A printed termination letter slid across the polished oak table. No eye contact, just silence. A few awkward glances. No one said a word. Eleanor didn't flinch. She reached for the envelope, folded it in half, and stood. "Thank you," she said simply. Her voice was steady, almost gentle. Then she turned and walked out of the room that had once been her battlefield for a decade and a half. Internal monologue. She wasn't shocked, or even angry. Just hollow. 15 years, 4 CEOs, 8 core system launches, and it took 4 minutes to become obsolete. She had seen it coming. But she hadn't expected the cut to be this clean, this final. Quiet twist foreshadowed. As the elevator hummed downward, Eleanor allowed herself the smallest of smiles. Blake had made a critical oversight. He didn't know that the core financial analysis engine, Argus Core, still relied on a proprietary encryption protocol, one that Eleanor herself had designed, one she still legally owned under a special contract clause signed years ago. And this Saturday, when the system runs its first full update under Blake's new AI-first architecture, he'll learn what happens when you remove the cornerstone without checking if the building can stand without it. The cardboard box felt heavier than it should have. Eleanor placed it gently in the trunk of her car, closed the lid and sat behind the wheel without starting the engine. The early evening sun cast long shadows across the parking lot. For the first time in 15 years, she didn't have a reason to rush home, or anywhere. She leaned back in her seat, closed her eyes, and let the silence settle around her. Her mind wasn't on the termination. It was on a small piece of paper, buried deep in a filing cabinet at her home office, a contract, drafted in 2009, when Arctix was just an ambitious little firm with 5 employees and barely enough capital to pay for cloud storage. Back then, the founder, Martin Redfield, had approached her with a problem no one could solve. The company wanted a financial analytics engine that could process raw transactional data in real time, detect anomalies, and provide live insights for hedge fund clients. "No one's cracked this," Martin had told her, pacing nervously in that cramped second-floor suite above a frozen yogurt shop. "But if you can build it, we'll build this company around it." She agreed, on one condition. Since Arctix couldn't afford to pay her full salary at the time, they signed a special licensing agreement. Eleanor would retain ownership of the encryption layer that powered the engine, and Arctix would license it under her terms, renewable annually unless renegotiated or purchased outright. It was a safeguard, one she had nearly forgotten herself. Until now. The clause was obscure, nestled in a dense section of legalese, clause April 3, 12, upon involuntary termination of the developer without cause, license rights to the proprietary protocol revert to temporary use for 30 calendar days, after which continued operation requires license renewal or formal acquisition. No one at Arctix had ever attempted to buy her out. No one had even reviewed the agreement in years. Most of the newer leadership probably didn't even know it existed. But the system knew. Argus Core had been programmed with a self-auditing routine that checked for license validation every 30 days. If it failed, the engine would shift into safe mode, disable analytics, and display a simple message. System paused, license expired, contact original developer, not a trap, a failsafe. Flashback ends. Present moment. Eleanor opened her home office cabinet and pulled out the folder. Inside was the original signed agreement, notarized, time-stamped, and scanned onto her personal encrypted drive. Next to it, she found the original source code for the license validation module. Untouched for over a decade, but still functioning like clockwork. She smiled as she read the comments in her own code, // in case they ever forget who built the bones of this thing. The phone vibrated next to her keyboard, a text from her former intern, Leah Whitaker, now a junior systems engineer. Eleanor, I don't know what happened in that meeting, but everyone's stunned. Blake's already announcing system upgrades for Saturday. He's replacing Argus Core with some new AI engine. It feels rushed, reckless. Eleanor didn't respond. She didn't need to. By the time Blake's code touched the production server, the real intelligence in the system would respond. Not with sabotage, but with a quiet message reminding them that not all knowledge lives on the cloud. Some of it lives in people. Saturday arrived quietly. The city was still, wrapped in morning humidity and the hum of lawn sprinklers. Eleanor woke at 6, as she always had. Old habits didn't vanish with job titles. She brewed her coffee, opened her laptop, and watched the time tick toward 7. At exactly 7 a.m., Blake's scheduled system update went live. It was the crown jewel of his so-called AI renaissance. A full-scale migration from Eleanor's architecture to a sleek machine learning model he had barely spent a month testing in staging environments. The first signs came quickly. A hedge fund in New York reported anomalies in their live dashboard, then another in Boston. By 7:14, Arctix's East Coast clients were flooding the support lines. At 7:31 a.m., the automated license check in Argus Core initiated its routine scan. It didn't find a valid license, it triggered the fallback. Across the country, dashboards went dark, graphs disappeared, analytics functions locked up. Instead of real-time market reports, clients saw the same line of text on every screen. System paused, license expired, contact original developer. At Arctix headquarters, chaos erupted. Leah sat frozen at her desk as support tickets piled up. Blake stormed into the operations wing, his voice sharp and panicked. "Roll back the update," he barked. "Run diagnostics. Reset the server stack." "But the update isn't causing the block," Leah whispered to herself. She opened the system logs. Her eyes scanned lines of code she recognized, not from any recent build, but from Eleanor's decade-old routines. That's when she saw it. License check failed. Mode, restricted. Code, auth12_revoked. The system hadn't crashed, it had chosen to stop. Leah reached for her phone. At Eleanor's home, the phone buzzed against her kitchen table. She picked it up, recognized the number, and took a slow sip of coffee before answering. "Eleanor," Leah's voice trembled on the other end. Everything's offline. The system says it's a license issue. Blake thinks it's a bug, but it's not, is it?" Eleanor didn't answer immediately. She walked to the window, watching the morning sun stretch across her lawn. "It's working exactly as designed," she said calmly. "The protocol isn't malicious. It's a safeguard, one that activates when the terms are violated." A long silence. "Can you fix it?" "I'm no longer with Arctix, Leah," Eleanor replied. "I don't have the authority, but your leadership does, if they're willing to acknowledge what really happened." Back at Arctix by 9 a.m., the executive floor was in crisis mode. Clients were demanding refunds, legal was on alert, marketing had pulled all campaigns, servers were functioning, but the heart of the system, Eleanor's architecture, had put itself to sleep. The CTO, Reed Douglas, cornered Blake near the IT war room. "What exactly did you replace?" Reed demanded. "And why didn't you validate the dependencies?" Blake stammered. "I thought we moved past her systems. I didn't think—" "You didn't think," Reed cut him off. By noon, Eleanor's inbox overflowed with emails, some begging, some accusing, some offering blank checks. She ignored them all until she saw a familiar name, Martin Redfield, the founder. His subject line was short. "Please call me." Eleanor let the phone ring twice before answering. "Eleanor!" Martin Redfield's voice came through with a weight she hadn't heard in years. "I just spoke with Reed. I understand now. The license trigger, it's real." "It always was," Eleanor replied, calm but firm. Martin sighed. "I'm not going to waste your time. This is a mess. Our top clients are threatening litigation. Blake's update caused a ripple effect we can't contain without your system running." Eleanor said nothing. She walked to her desk and placed a hand over the old printed contract sitting there, the ink faded but unmistakable. "I should have made sure this agreement was known," Martin continued. "Back then I thought I'd bring you on full-time and revisit the license later, but you were happy to keep it as it was." "I trusted the work more than the paperwork," she said. "Well," he paused, "I'm asking for your help now. Not just to restore the system, but to guide this company again." Eleanor arched an eyebrow. "Blake doesn't seem the type who wants guidance." "He won't be a problem anymore," Martin said, his voice clipped. "Fired? Not yet, but the board's meeting tonight, and let's just say they've read the contract now, and the logs. He blamed your code. That didn't help his case." Eleanor allowed herself a slow breath. It wasn't satisfaction exactly, but it was something close to justice. Later that evening she sat down with Patricia Klein, her longtime tech attorney. Together they drafted terms, not out of spite, but out of clarity. Item 1. A $900,000 compensation for unauthorized use of the system post-termination. Item 2. A 2-year renewable consulting contract with full autonomy, $250,000 annually. Item 3. A formal written acknowledgement of her intellectual property rights. Item 4. A public statement from the board recognizing her role and apologizing for the improper termination. Reasonable, Patricia said, looking over the draft. In fact, generous. They need stability more than I need vengeance, Eleanor replied. Sunday morning, a car pulled into her driveway. It was Reed Douglas, the CTO, carrying a leather briefcase and looking every bit as sleep-deprived as she expected. "We're ready to sign," he said as she welcomed him in. She scanned the documents, noted the signatures, and handed over a USB drive containing the license key. Reed exhaled in visible relief. "This will bring everything back online?" "Within minutes," she replied. "But the bigger rebuild will take time." He hesitated before speaking again. "I should have spoken up when Blake started pushing to replace everything. I knew how integral your systems were. It's done," Eleanor cut in gently. "What matters now is what comes next." Reed nodded. "He's out, by the way. The board voted last night, unanimous." "I'm not surprised," she said, tucking the signed agreement into her folder. "When you remove the foundation without understanding the structure, the building always falls." By Sunday evening, Arctic Systems was back online. By Monday morning, the company issued an official statement. "We acknowledge the foundational work of Eleanor Hayes in building and maintaining the Argus Core architecture, the backbone of Arctic's analytics platform. We deeply regret the circumstances surrounding her departure and are honored to welcome her back as Strategic Systems Consultant." Monday morning arrived with a strange stillness in the building. Eleanor stepped into the lobby of Arctic Systems wearing a soft gray blazer and carrying no briefcase. She didn't need one. She wasn't there for a job interview. She wasn't reporting to anyone. She was back, but on her terms. As she walked through the open floor layout toward the executive wing, heads turned. Some employees nodded respectfully. Others quickly looked away, the same ones who had stayed silent in that conference room on the day she was dismissed. Word had traveled fast. No one could pretend they didn't know what had happened. Leah appeared near the elevator, eyes wide with relief. "You're really here," she said. "For a little while," Eleanor replied with a gentle smile, "just long enough to ensure this place remembers how it was built." Inside the executive conference room, the full board was seated. Martin greeted her personally, standing up to shake her hand with both of his. "Welcome back, Eleanor," he said. "Let's skip the ceremony," she replied. "You've got systems to stabilize." Reed, the CTO, handed her a fresh access badge. "It's all set. Your credentials are active. You'll have unrestricted access." Eleanor nodded and took her seat, at the head of the table. She opened a tablet and connected to the main dashboard. The system was online, license validated, but clearly unstable beneath the surface. Logs overflowed with failed AI tasks, broken API calls, and malformed data pipelines from Blake's rushed update. She scanned the logs silently, then looked up. "We're not going back to what we had," she said, "but we're not jumping blind into something we don't understand either. I'll build a hybrid model, one that retains the stability of Argus Core, integrates selected AI enhancements, and documents every change thoroughly." The board listened in silence. "You've been chasing speed," she continued. "But speed without comprehension is how you get lost. We don't need faster failure, we need intelligent progress." Over the next 2 weeks, Eleanor assembled a small transition team. She picked Leah to lead it. She also reached out to 2 former Arctic engineers who had left under Blake's regime. Within days, the team had reverse-engineered Blake's AI modules and discarded the unstable ones. Every line of new code was reviewed, every adjustment was documented, every system change was archived. For the first time in years, Arctic was not just reacting, but thinking ahead. One afternoon, Eleanor found herself alone in the server room. The hum of the machines was familiar, almost comforting. She stood quietly, hands in her pockets, watching the blinking lights of Argus Core. It wasn't just software. It was a legacy, built with care, refined through necessity, and defended without pride. She didn't need it to prove her worth anymore. She only needed it to work. 2 months passed. The chaos had settled. Clients who had threatened to leave were now sending thank you notes. The hybrid system Eleanor designed was outperforming expectations. Argus Core, once dismissed as legacy, had been quietly upgraded and reintegrated, proving more adaptable than anyone had imagined when placed in the right hands. The AI enhancements were no longer wild guesses in a black box. They were interpretable, layered, and tested under Eleanor's new model of human-in-the-loop validation. Arctics had not just recovered, it had evolved. In the main engineering room, Leah stood in front of a whiteboard, presenting the new schema to a team of junior developers. Eleanor sat quietly in the back watching. She didn't need to interrupt, Leah had it. Later, as the team dispersed, Leah approached her. "You're really not staying, are you?" she asked. Eleanor shook her head. "I was never meant to stay forever, just long enough to fix what mattered." "But you built everything. You could run this place." "I don't want to run it," Eleanor said. "I want to leave it better than I found it." She paused, then added, "And I want to make sure people like you don't have to fight the same battles I did. Alone." A week later, Arctics hosted its annual Shareholders and Strategy Summit, the first in-person gathering since the company's internal shakeup. Martin took the stage to open the event. "We've faced hard truths this quarter," he said, "but the company that survives isn't the one that runs the fastest, it's the one that learns the deepest, and we've been fortunate to have someone guide us back to that principle." He turned toward the side of the stage. "Please welcome our keynote speaker, the architect of Argus Core, and the person who reminded us all that innovation begins with understanding, Eleanor Hayes." Applause erupted. Eleanor stepped up to the podium, not with notes, not with slides, just presence. She looked out at the audience, board members, engineers, investors, clients, many of whom had doubted her not long ago. She began simply. "I don't believe in building things to last," she said. "I believe in building things to grow." After the summit, industry press quickly picked up the story. Legacy engineer saves multi-million-dollar firm from collapse. Hybrid systems model gains ground thanks to veteran coder's vision. More consulting offers followed. Universities reached out asking her to guest lecture. 2 Fortune 500 companies contacted Patricia Klein to explore licensing her validation model. Eleanor declined most of them. She wasn't chasing headlines. She had one more thing to finish first. In her home office, she finalized a curriculum titled Sustainable Systems, teaching the next generation of engineers. It was a 12-week mentorship program, half technical, half ethical. It focused not just on writing good code, but on knowing why you write it, on building for people, not just platforms. The following spring, Eleanor received a letter in the mail. It bore the seal of the U.S. Patent Office. Inside was confirmation that her encryption protocol had been officially patented under her name, retroactive to her original build. She placed it in the same folder where the original contract had once sat. Then she closed the drawer. Spring turned to summer. The hills around Eleanor's home were green with new life, and for the first time in years, she had no alarms set, no late-night code reviews, no looming crises, only quiet and clarity. One afternoon she stood at the edge of her garden, hands dusty from planting lavender along the fence line. Her phone buzzed softly in her pocket. It was a message from Leah. "Just wanted to let you know, Argus Core processed its 10 billionth transaction today. No errors. We named the new anomaly detection layer after you in the commit log. Hayes filter." Eleanor stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed back, "Tell the team I'm proud. Now go build something even better." Weeks later, she was invited to speak at the North American Software Architecture Conference in Denver. Not because of the Arctics crisis, although everyone in the industry knew what had happened, but because of what she'd done after it. She stepped onto the stage wearing a quiet smile. Her talk was titled, Invisible Work: How to Build Systems That Outlive You. She spoke not about code, but about trust, about documentation, about mentorship, about the quiet moments when an engineer chooses to write a comment, explain a method, teach a junior, rather than gatekeep or vanish into obscurity. She spoke about how real systems aren't made of tech alone. They're made of people who care enough to keep them alive. After the event, a young woman approached her in the lobby. "I'm starting my first job next month," she said, wide-eyed. "I've read everything about what happened at Arctics. I just wanted to say thank you for standing your ground." Eleanor smiled. "You don't need to stand your ground if you know your foundation." Then she paused, considered the girl for a moment, and added, "But if someone tries to move it without looking, make sure your code knows how to hold." That night, Eleanor sat alone on her back porch, a notebook resting on her lap. She didn't open it. She didn't need to. She had written what mattered, taught what needed passing on, defended what was worth defending, not with anger, but with structure, resilience, and resolve. She looked up at the stars, and for the first time in a long while, she felt not just finished. She felt free.